Good evening, Eamon here from Ashland Farm. Uh, Talking to you, I'm in connection with people with a disability. You probably know me from talking about retirement and farming, but I have 4 children, and our third son with my wife Mary, our third son was born 28 years ago with Down syndrome. When he was born, it was definitely a shock to us, to the parents. Nobody expects to have a child with Down syndrome, or the fact a sick child of any shape or form. And it's a big shock to both to you and to your wife and to your family. And it has an impact on you. And I'm going to start talking to you, and particularly, hope to help some parents that has children with a disability, and maybe take it on that journey, and to let you know that there is light at the end of the tunnel, and that it's a very, very positive experience. It might start out as being you might feel quite sad, you feel depressed. You have to mourn for a period of time. And what are you mourning? You're mourning for the child that you expected that you did not get. You were expecting a healthy, bouncy, smiley baby. And you looked around the hospital and all the other children was that. You were handed a child that was yours, had Down syndrome. To us, we were probably somewhat lucky because we knew what Down syndrome was, and we had a good experience of people with disabilities. Virtue the fact that we have within our parish, there was a residential and a school here for people with intellectual disability, which was known that time as it was known as St. Mary's, and it had a couple hundred young children and young adults in it, of various different degrees of intellectually disability. And my wife and myself were involved in the parents and friends of that organisation, and my wife happened to be secretary of that, and she was secretary of it even when Fintan was born. And I'd like maybe to start the story and maybe continue this story on and go through different phases of his life for over the next few videos, and that'll bring us to the end, to where we are today, of 28 years of age, and the ups, the downs, the happies and the sad days. But I'm going to say at the very onset, and I don't want to spoil the end of this story, because you could write a book about Fintan. You look back now with all the vision of, what do they call it, 1990 vision of hindsight, and you'd wonder what were you worrying about. Fintan was born on the 3rd of January, 28 years ago, our third child, with Down syndrome. I was told by the gynecologist on the night that he was born, or in the middle of an early morning of a cold January morning, that this child had Down syndrome. and he didn't know how it would go, or how severe, or how good or how bad he'd be. But he looked at that stage healthy, and he was examined by the pediatricians, and he seemed to be reasonably healthy. Of course, the first few hours and the first few days is like a normal baby. You have to feed him and look after him and start bonding with him. But within moments of he being born, both were said, we will take this new baby into our hearts, and we will do whatever we can to make his life, as happy and of a quality life as we possibly can. We made that commitment to him, and we made that commitment to each other. And thank God, we can stand out in any place today and say we delivered and we've honoured that commitment. And we have, I'd safely say, over delivered. And to see that young man today, you will be proud of him. As I said, the first few days in the hospital was the same as any other normal baby. The same thing had to be done. But then a line of appointments with heart specialists and various other different specialists had to be organised to make sure of his health, because if you're born with Down syndrome, you can have other conditions. And along with that is our oldest son was born with a heart condition, and they were a little bit concerned because people with Down syndrome can also have a heart condition. So they had to take those tests and see whether Fintan had a heart condition or not, and they all had to be put in place. I remember well on the 6th of January bringing up his older brother and sister up to visit him and visit his mum, and they were armed with teddies and presents for their new brother. And whether he had Down syndrome or not, they absolutely embraced him and loved him from the very moment they laid eyes on him. And that love and commitment has not wavered one bit. As we sat in that room that night, and our family was all there, I can feel a little bit emotional about it, thinking back. My wife, Kenneth, Katrina, and I knew Fintan. This is our family. We knew if we stuck together, we would get through this. And this is why I decided to make these videos that might help other families that's gone through this, and maybe particularly fathers that sometimes are kind of left one side and they have to be the macho man all the time, and maybe do not tell the story from their side. And I want to tell my story about my beautiful son, Fenton. If you like this video, subscribe to it, support it, and like it, and comment on it. And I will continue the story until we reach the story of his life today. Thank you. Signing off, Eamon Bray, a parent of four beautiful children, and a parent of a beautiful child with Down syndrome. Thank you.